right, good morning, everyone. It is a little after 8:30 in the morning, and I'll call to order the Legislative and Human Resources Committee of the Kent County Board of Commissioners. We will start with our agenda. The first item is public comment. If there is anyone from the public that wishes to address the committee, you may do so by identifying yourself, and you have up to 3 minutes. The queue looks pretty short, so we will move on to the next item, which
Mr.
is,
Chair, if I may, I'd like to ask for a division of the question on agenda item number 5. I think according to Rule 3.15, it can stand as more than one separate question. I'd like to tease out the recommendation for the Gerald R. Ford International Airport Board.
I'm going to invite you make that motion when we get to item number 5. I think Rule 315 requires it to be a pending motion, so it would be in order for you to make that motion at that point. I know you're trying to make sure we get it done before the agenda proceeds,
Right.
But you will not have lost the right to make that motion.
Okay, appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, with that, we'll move to item number 2, approval of the minutes from November 23, 2021. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Support. Move, support.
It is moved and
Doesn't matter.
supported almost unanimously, and at the same time, all those, any discussion? If not, those that support the motion say yes.
Yes.
Those that oppose it say no. It is approved. All right, let's move to our first performance measurement presentation this morning. Martha Burkett is here. Good morning. She will give the presentation on our veteran services.
You guys hear me okay?
We can, but just make sure you keep that mic close to you. It's, you move 2 or 3 inches to one side and we lose you, so
Okay.
thank you.
Well, thank you for having me and asking for this presentation. I'm really excited to give it. We've had a big year. For those of you who I haven't met, I'm Martha Burkett. I'm the manager from Kent County Veterans Services. And I'm really proud of our program and all the things that we've done. So obviously, we are working to be in alignment with the board priorities, and we share, I'll share with you our strategic goals, our basic metrics, and significant accomplishments, as well as a look ahead. Obviously, we're supposed to be in alignment with goals, and I think we're well on our way with that. Our mission at Kent County Veterans Services is to provide accurate, efficient, and timely information and services that facilitate benefits, which enhance the quality of life for Kent County veterans and their families. And we've worked really hard in the last couple of years to do more to include families in the activities and resources that we provide. Our strategic goals: increase the number of veterans and family members who are seeking services. We've done a lot of creative outreach and other initiatives to help achieve that. Increase services available to veterans and their families by establishing cooperative partnerships with multiple key community agencies. Develop and engage in multiple creative outreach activities, and measure utility and effectiveness of all initiatives. So, under strategic plan priority excellence and service delivery, the goal was to increase the numbers of veterans and family members seeking services. And so our objective was to create a more visible footprint through the targeted use of social media, advertising, and enhanced community outreach activities. So for those of you who were here last year and remember it, we had started a new Facebook page and other social media accounts. We started Women Warriors Facebook page because we hadn't really been effectively to females, and we started that this year. We've maintained our Instagram account, and we started a GR Outdoors billboard campaign, so I don't know if any of you have seen the billboards around town, but they're pretty impressive. And they seem to have made a mark. Quite a few people telling us that that's how they knew to call us. Continue to utilize creative and collaborative outreach. We have so many partners in the community that I'm going to talk about in just a minute, that it's really inspiring to find out how many people in our community and organizations want to help veterans, and it's so fun to collaborate with them. Fox 17, Wood TV, and Channel 13 outreach. You may have seen some of our television commercials and our little spots on TV where Rachel or myself or some of our stakeholders come on and talk about the activities and events that we have going on. We facilitated a project called Yellow Ribbon on the Blue Bridge and the Voices Art Prize initiative, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. The first annual Female Veterans Appreciation Banquet. This was really fun and exciting. It was actually suggested by committee member Mel Bauman that we should have a banquet to honor the female veterans. And so that was a lot of fun to put together, and we had really good response to that. It was fun. And we've also been offering gender-specific art, yoga, and music opportunities. So we have that's both male and female specific, and we have focused on developing more female-specific recreational activities with Women Veterans Strong, which is one of the organizations that we partner with. This has just continued. The objective was to measure progress via electronic and paper means, implementing electronic and paper customer surveys, asking where individuals learned about us, and measuring satisfaction with services. We had sort of been doing this before, and then when COVID, the only way we were doing it, though, was in person. And somebody would come in to the office, and we would give them a form to fill out, and they would sometimes give it back and sometimes not. So we implemented a link that's embedded in all the staff's email address, so it's like people can just click on that and go do a survey. We have a veteran support coordinator who gets a lot of calls that he kind of then distributes either to staff inside of our office or to outside community resources. And part of his screening process is to ask people, how did you learn about us? And so we're doing a better job of that. And then Eventbrite, a lot of the activities that we have on our events calendar on our website, if people click and they register and they participate, even if it's a Zoom activity, then at the end of the activity, there's an opportunity for them to fill out a satisfaction survey and answer questions. So we've boosted that significantly. And of course, like everybody else, this has been really out of the office, and participation levels waxing and waning, but we're really encouraged and excited about what we have going on. Excellence in service delivery. Again, we're increasing access to services and awareness for veterans and their families by establishing cooperative partnerships with multiple key community agencies. So trying to create a more visible footprint and enhancing the community outreach activities that we previously have had available. So new collaborations, there's a veteran organization, As Heart, and that is a nonprofit for veterans. Michael Hyacinth is really kind of the leader of that, and that was really key in facilitating the Voices project that we did for our prize. But he's also opening a veteran coffee shop and art gallery, and there's going to be a lot going on with them. And Grand Rapids Community College, I don't know if you're aware or not, but they have now implemented a veterans lounge in their campus, and they have staff that are designated to try to reach out to veterans more effectively. We're actually going to have them on our TV spot next week. talking about that new initiative. So we like to partner with them. We already partner with Grand Valley quite successfully, and so we're really encouraged about having VSOs go out and be at the, actually be at the student lounge there and be available to answer questions for people, to be able to take activities to their students, that kind of thing, and really do a lot of outreach with their veteran population and their families. So that's kind of exciting. The West Michigan's Veterans Council, we've worked really hard at, that's not a brand new relationship, but it's certainly renewed and maintained. I would say it's definitely renewed. And so we've spent a lot of time working with them and educating them about who we are and what we're doing, and they've actually given us their formal endorsement for support for Veterans Millage, which is cool. Also, the West Michigan Veterans Alliance, that's another one that's a kind of a similar. Army-Navy Club has also indicated their support for the Veterans Millage. Arbor Circle is one. This is a program I'm really proud of. We have been collaborating with them to do substance use and health treatment for veterans. It's a veteran-specific program. It's free to veterans, and I'll talk more about that later. And also, we've done outreach in the last just couple months to more than 20 area nursing homes and assisted living where veterans are housed. And so we're working with them to set up a monthly rotation where we can go out, we can have our staff go out and be there available to answer questions to the veterans who live there, but also to their family members, because a lot of times it's the family members, especially with elderly veterans, who are seeking information about the benefits available to their veteran, but also to themselves if that veteran passes and so on and so forth, or, yeah. So that's kind of a big deal too. And we're continuing to grow that as we go forward into this year. Developing shared plans, tracking, and evaluation tools for implementation of programming. We already have those in place with DEGAJE, with the Kent County Veterans Treatment Court, Community Rebuilders, Disability Advocates, Senior Neighbors, and the Comanche Project, which is the equine therapy program that we contract with for veterans and their families in the community. We're doing tracking for MVAA for the County Veterans Services grants that we get. Any initiatives that we do with that grant, we have to provide tracking information and regular reporting. Women Veterans Strong, which is the female support group, and my community dental centers is providing us with data. Also, Arbor Circle, the program that I just mentioned. I mentioned that we have a veteran support coordinator now, and that person is tracking and providing data that informs our program development. Yeager Foundation is an agency in the community, veteran-owned, that provides service dogs for veterans. And we're working on on the development of our internal integrated tracking system for KCVS, and this has been partly because of COVID. Had some prolonged absences that have kind of created some tension and pressure, and so we're still working on it, but we're not as far as we hoped we'd be by this time. This is one about making sure that the staff is all properly trained and credentialed, and obviously we weren't able to send trainings in the past year, but they did. Some people were able to go. Everybody in the 100% of the staff has done the VSO training, and they've passed the accreditation examination, and that includes me. No, I haven't done the accreditation examination, but I passed the training. I have a certificate of the training because I don't actually do that work. But so everybody on the team, so everybody, the idea was to have people cross-trained so that if somebody goes out sick or somebody leaves, then we can pretty easily get else into that position while we're putting out something for hiring or whatever. But it's nice because it makes session planning, and it also encourages the staff to realize that, oh, there really is an opportunity for me to move around in this department and achieve higher levels of responsibility and compensation. So they like that. So, whoops, didn't switch the slide, sorry. Developing and nurturing new community collaborations and shared initiatives. These are just some examples. The Women's Veteran Strong North Country Trail Challenge. We helped to facilitate and market that initiative, and there were several female veterans who, several female veterans who participated in that. The MVA sponsored equine therapy retreats. There was one that was for men and one for women only. Yellow Ribbon on the Blue Bridge, which was, some of you remember the, I think it was, the committee decided that we wanted to contract with an art prize artist named Pamela Aldrin. And we contracted with her to do art workshops with Kent County veterans and their families, and the idea was to, out of these workshops, take the work that the veterans had done and implement it into, or turn it into a sculpture that we could then enter into the art prize competition, because Pamela had a lot of experience with that. And so we did that, and it was a blast. And at that time, you know, COVID hadn't hit yet, so we were doing a lot of in-person stuff, and we got it actually completed, and then COVID happened. And so then 2020, our prize got canceled, and so we had to kind of try to pick it up and figure out how are we going to move this forward. And so we actually planned several activities around this. MVAA gave us quite a generous amount of money to do a gala and some other activities. We weren't able to do the gala, but we did have the Yellow Ribbon on the Blue Bridge event, which was held right behind Everhard Center. It was an outdoor event, so it didn't matter that it was COVID. It was flaming hot outside, but we had pretty good participation. We had about 100 people show up for that, and we had the sculpture there on the Blue Bridge. It was absolutely beautiful. And we had a lot of the veteran artwork that had been done in the workshops was strung out on the railings of the bridge. And so we had people from the community, we had students, we had people who just happened to be running across the Blue Bridge for their daily exercise who stopped and looked at it. So there was a lot of interaction there. And we also had activities for children and so on. The Voices Art Mentoring and grand opening event at Veterans Memorial Park. The Voices project was a collaboration between Michael Hyacinth, Pamela Alderman, and Kent County Veteran Services. We decided that we wanted to show our piece at Veterans Art Park, or Veterans Memorial Park, sorry. And then we thought about, well, what if we see if Art Prize will identify this as an official Art Prize venue where veterans can show their art. And they did, they approved it. And so then we had this space, but we didn't have a lot of veteran artists. So we figured out a way to attract veterans who wanted to make art or were already making art to be part of this. And Pamela Alderman and Michael Hyacinth actually mentored a lot of those people. The county put forward some money toward sponsoring them, and then Finish the Mission and West Michigan Veterans Coalition supplemented that, so that there are people who are outside of the county, outside of Kent County, who wanted to participate. Those funds were used. Millage funds were only used on veterans from Kent County. But it turned out we had 21 veterans who participated. It was absolutely fantastic. And I have a little video clip I'll show about that later. I talked about the nursing homes. For Veterans Day, there wasn't a parade this year, but we really wanted to reach out to the veterans. And so Rachel Wissman, who's the community outreach specialist, came up with the idea of making up door tags to take to the assisted living and nursing homes where their veterans housed, and to put their name on there and say, thank you for your service. And it was a really clever design. It was a flag. And so anyway, it was a way to go out and acknowledge those veterans. They could put that on their door, and then the people in their community would also know that they were veterans. And so they got quite a bit of acknowledgement that way, and it was a fun project for us to do. And then, you know, we continue to attend numerous veterans activities in the community. We were at the Veterans Home, Grand Opening, so on and so on and so on. Now that we have more outreach people, it's a lot easier to get out to more staff is participating in this. I've already talked some about the Female Veterans Banquet. This was the invitation for it. Photos that were taken, we were able to get Sonetta Adams, who's the director of the MVAA, to come and speak, and also Rosemary Aquilina, who's a judge in Lansing, who is a female veteran, and she is the one who prosecuted the Larry Nassar case. So she's really a champion of women and women veterans in general, and she knows a lot about trauma. And she came and gave an absolutely outstanding speech. And then we had live music and dancing and food, and it was really fun. And the women just had a ball. They came and they were all dressed up, and it was a really good night. This is just a very short video about the yellow ribbon on the Blue Bridge. The Yellow Ribbon Project is named that because our piece is interactive. So it's this sculpture that's in 3 pieces, and then played it at Veterans Memorial Park. We had volunteers that were there with yellow ribbons and markers, and so people who came the option of writing a message to tying it to the veterans coming home. So that was what we did, and you could see the bridge we did it, but when we did it at the actual Art Prize event, you know, and it was interaction, we had 10,000 people do ribbons. That's how many people chose to interact with the piece. Not how many people saw it, that's how many people chose to interact with it. And then there was another part of it where they could write a postcard to an active duty veteran or active duty military personnel, and we got 2,500 people who did that. So that's a really huge impact. And so then we had Pamela Alderman has really good relationships with the Blue. They were the ones who take the ribbons and take the post that sent to active duty military. So it was kind of a thing that just, you know, outward and outward and outward. But I was just blown away when she told me how many ribbons there were on that. I was just like, I'd been there for some of it, so I got to see some of the participation, but I was I was pleasantly surprised. Anyhow, you know, our key accomplishments, you know, we've managed to do uninterrupted and improved access to benefits in spite of COVID. We utilized the technology that we purchased for remote work, and we served almost as many veterans as we did in 2019 and 2020. So we're proud of that. Veteran Support Coordinator, which is a contract position, we hired him in to do kind of risk management and to be a point of contact for families. But if somebody calls, then he does a screening on them and identifies risk factors that might make them vulnerable to suicide. And so by doing that, then he can talk to them about what services are available at Kent County and what services are available out in the community. And he actually does a warm handoff. He actually makes a phone call, connects them with that person, and then they kind of follow up. So it's not just a one and done, here's a phone number, go call them. But he establishes relationships with them in such a way that they come back to him. So the last time that he gave a report at one of our staff meetings, he said, yeah, now I'm getting repeat callers. He's been here long enough that he's got people coming back to him, which is really exciting because that's what we were hoping was going to happen. The thing with Arbor Circle I mentioned already, I feel really good about that. We've had 29 unique participants in that program, considering that's a brand new program and it was during COVID. That's pretty great. And so we're changing lives, and that way, and that counselor is trained to work with veterans, and she offers group, individual, and some couples counseling for veterans, which is really huge because families are veterans. I talked about to provide free dental care for veterans who either didn't have commercial insurance or VA insurance, or, you know, they were going to be working. They weren't necessarily going to pay a surprise root canal for $100 or something. So that was really a good thing.
Martha, can you make sure you speak into the microphone?
sorry.
For the broadcast? Thank you.
Yeah, Community Rebuilders does, it's called the Beautifully Homes Project, and they provide beds. They have to have new beds when they place somebody in a living situation, so that's the hardest thing for them to come by. So we've been paying for beds for veterans when they get placed in living situations. And then Senior Neighbor has been helping senior veterans get their roofs replaced and their windows done. And they already had a budget for this, but what they said is this is really great because now they can actually complete the project. Instead of saying, well, we have a $3,000 cap on roof repair, and so they patched part of the roof, but then a year later, there's another roof problem. So now in those situations, they can actually complete the project and just mitigate the problem. Disability Advocates is doing a lot with our money too. They're doing home accessibility stuff and providing supplies and, you know, like wheelchairs and that kind of thing for veterans who need it. So that's been really good. Increasing our footprint, I've talked about that, the media and television. Billboard signage has been huge. We've participated in the Hidden Wounds of War Conference at Grand Valley State University. That's an annual thing. It's kind of a collaborative thing. It's an educational opportunity for caregivers, but also for veterans and their families. And then working to collaborate with the Grand GRCC veterans. And so the grant initiatives, you know, we've done the gender-specific equine retreats. We purchased with grant money a bunch of swag, so T-shirts. We had special design T-shirts for the Yellow Ribbon and the Voices Project, and then we also had hats made and all that kind of thing. So we took those things with us when we did the Finish the Mission Freedom Cruise and other outreach activities. So now we have walking billboards all over Kent County, people with our T-shirts on. And then, you know, the Yellow Ribbon Project. So And so this is this was an email from one of the coordinators at Art Prize, and it was sent to Pamela Alderman, and she shared it with us. But this is a list of all of the non-monetary awards that our piece was, this was the public who went to Art Prize, had the opportunity to vote on different pieces. And these are all the awards that we won from the community vote. And there are a lot of them there. But I just think the Wow Factor Prize, that's the one I like the best out of it. But, yeah, so that was kind of a big deal for us. We're really proud of that. Why is this not working?
You have to unzoom it with your fingers, and then it will advance.
Okay, thank you. So look ahead, we're going to continue with our collaborations and our behavioral health programs. We're going to continue with our social media and other outreach. We're going to utilize the outreach specialist, Rachel, a lot more. And we're going to increase the number of veterans and dependents accessing services. Any questions for me?
Thank you for your report. Let's see if any commissioners have any questions or comments. Commissioner McLeod.
Thanks, Chair. So thank you for that report. That was a lot of great activities that you were able to do even during COVID, which is awesome to see. And I was really excited about the first annual Females Veteran Appreciation Banquet. Like, that sounds like something that definitely need to try to attend in the future. I just wondered, you spoke about a few things that you've tried to do to have female, gender-specific events and activities to help the veterans be engaged. And I wondered has there been any thought about those that don't identify as male or female, like for LGBTQIA veterans? Are there any things that are in the works for those veterans as well? Because we know that that's a pretty, that's a population that definitely has some needs as well.
Right, and we don't have anything in development right now, but you just gave me a really great idea. Definitely speak with about how do we promote activity.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burrow.
Yes, Martha, thank you very much. It's, again, our veterans are special folks, and their families are as well. I think a lot of times folks forget about the spouses that are at home when they go to work or deployed, or the different items that they have as well. One of the neat benefits I've always thought, and it looks like you help with that, is when nursing home care, there's typically a benefit that will go with a spouse after the veteran's passed away. And can you just talk about that a little bit? I know there's some folks that sometimes just don't know who the kids, right, of parents that have that benefit. They just don't know that process and how that works, and how long does that typically take? Is it retroactive? But it's a neat benefit and very kind of special and helpful for the family.
It is. So he's talking about the spousal benefits after the veteran is deceased. And so that is an income-based benefit. So, the spouse would have to apply and go through certain criteria. But our VSOs are trained and certified to do that exact work. And so we encourage families to come in and talk to them and talk about. Sometimes they're even able to get back benefits for the veteran, which is interesting because then it gets paid to the spouse because they weren't fully connected. But anyhow, yeah, so the VSOs will, fill out the paperwork and apply to the VA. And as far as how long that takes, that is, right now, it would probably take longer than usual, just because everything is taking longer than usual. So I can't give you an exact timeline on that, but I would say 6 months maybe during good times when communication is flowing. But yeah, it's designed to be there for the spouse who supported all those years and the family, and also for dependent children. So if kids are under 18, then there's a benefit for them. And if there's a dependent child, adult child who has special needs or something like that, then there are benefits for that person as well. And we also have burial benefits for spouses and veterans. They can each, as long as they were married at the time of death, then they can have, they can both be buried in a national cemetery. So, for example, there's one on the west side of the state and then one down by Battle Creek, Fort Custer, so.
How much flexibility do you have with new items that come in that you haven't seen before? Does everything kind of have a box it fits in, or as a need arises from a veteran or their spouse, and it's unique or different, can we typically help with those scenarios, or are we kind of boxed in a little bit?
We're not really boxed in, and that's where the community collaborations come in and where the additional resources that we have come in. Because, and that's also where our support coordinator comes in, the person who I identified as a contract employee, because the whole idea is we want to help the veteran in a holistic way. We want to know all the things that are going on. Anything they're willing to share with us, we want to know about it. So if they identify something that doesn't fall into the niche of traditional benefits through the VA, then we look at, so for example, if they're having an issue with automobile, or, they want, they have food scarcity, or their kids need new shoes, or somebody needs a work uniform or something like that, then we have the opportunity. Some of that we can do with Sailors and Soldiers Relief Funds, depending on the situation, and again, they have to meet certain criteria for that. But other times, we can refer them to community agencies, either that we are giving grant money directly to support veterans, or they're the other community agencies that we partner with who provide the services that we don't. And so part of the Veteran Support Coordinator's job is to know every one of those resources and be able to say, oh, you need this, you need dentures, you need eyeglasses, you need what? Okay, well, let's see, and Nelson will actually do that work and set it up for them and find out where they can go get what they need. So if we can't provide it, we'll try to figure out who can and actually get it in motion, as opposed to just saying, here's a phone number.
Well, thank you, I appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ponstein?
Thank you, Chair Stuck. So Martha, thanks for being here today. Really appreciate all your work. We see on the advertisements on the news all the time the staggering statistic of veteran suicide. The amount of time and effort that we're putting into it, are we moving the needle on that, or is that still the serious problem that it is?
A very serious problem, and I would say it's probably more so now because there are so many COVID, there are so many things that are going on that are really difficult for people who already have PTSD or other mental health issues to cope with. And so there's a lot of pressure on everybody, just people in the general population. The anxiety and depression and adjustment disorder are like through the roof. People who have never sought any kind of mental health treatment are now seeking it, which is good, but it's also indicative of what we're dealing with. So, yeah, those numbers are still up, and the Veteran Support Coordinator position that I talked about, initially the committee said, let's do something about suicide prevention. So we said, okay, we'll put aside this much money. Well, at that point in time, I hadn't even figured out what that was going to be, but the more I thought about it, I thought, well, we are not really set up to do suicide prevention. We can't be a hotline, and those things already exist, but what we can do is identify what are the risk factors that are linked to suicide and do a better job of screening people so that we identify multiple risk factors and make sure, to the best of our ability, that they get each of those risk factors addressed. And so if it's a substance use disorder problem, if they say, yeah, my wife's fighting with me a lot, or my husband because I've been drinking too much, well, gee, well, did you know that we have this free program for veterans? My kids are embarrassed because they don't have decent shoes to wear to school, whatever. It's just all these, because all of those are the kinds of things, people who study suicide, they look at what are the risk factors. So homelessness, food scarcity, unemployment, mental health issues, substance use disorders, all of those are things that are huge factors. So So what we decided to do was leave the suicide prevention to those people who are trained and qualified to do that, because there are several agencies that do, including the VA and 92 for 22 right here in our own community. But for us to really put a lot of effort into doing that risk identification, and so that's what Nelson does. He asks all these questions and then does his best to link them. And so hopefully, if we get these needs addressed, then, you know, their mental health issues improve, their physical health improves, their relationships improve, their quality of life improves, and their outlook improves. So they're more hopeful about their circumstances. And especially if we can get them connected with other veterans, if we can help them join a veteran community, which is where all these activities come in, that's great. That's like the best medicine. That was the best part of being at that project, the art show at Memorial Park, was seeing all these veterans who didn't know each other come together, and they just bonded around the art. And a lot of their art was about their trauma. So they had this, I mean, they were just, it was amazing to watch how they just sort of, they just fused together like a tight network. And I know that some of them are still communicating with each other because I see it on Facebook, you know, so it works that way. So that's really huge.
Commissioner LeGrand.
Thank you, Chair. I just had a couple of questions. I'm really excited that you're doing some social media to reach out, and I have just one technical question. Are you just maintaining accounts, or are you actually advertising on Instagram and Facebook? Because I feel
Maintaining accounts on Facebook and Instagram, except that all of the TV stations that we advertise with do advertising for us through their Facebook stuff. So we have Facebook branded ads with all three of the stations that go out that way. As far as us doing our own advertisement on Facebook, like boosting things and that kind of thing, I mean, we can boost things, but mostly we post our events and activities, and then other articles that are shared from other organizations or whatever, just making people aware of what's going on in the community, or links to articles or that kind of thing, you know. So that's really kind of how we're using it.
I would just suggest that you consider it, because it's such a personal way to get in touch with people, and I think it's really effective advertising.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
And then I just had do we have any idea of what our background number of veterans is? I mean, we know who we're reaching once they've reached out to you, but do we, or, I mean, obviously people can come and go without being aware of them, but are there any sort of trackers that we have?
Yeah, there are. There's something called the GDX that comes from the VA, and it's not super accurate, but it's as close, and it's not always current, you know. But the numbers are around 38,000, I think, in Kent County.
Okay. And then I was really interested in all these therapeutic opportunities you have, not just the equine therapy, but the art therapy. And I wonder, do you ever have any opportunities for writing for that kind of arts?
I would love to.
Because,
I don't have anybody I don't know somebody who wants to do that. I would like to get somebody to do storytelling and writing. There was a veteran who said that he wanted to teach songwriting, which I thought would be great, but then it just didn't work out for his schedule to do it. But we haven't, you know, if you know somebody that you think would like to do writing stuff, let me know, because we haven't set up that whole, you know, we're still refining the wellness program going forward for this year. We have to tweak it some. So, yeah, let me know.
It's such a great way to process, but I think also there are a lot of stories that need to be told.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, and there's a
would
lot of
really-
talent, you know, people
Yeah.
have these skills that they're just kind of buried, they don't even know, but once they tap into it, they blossom.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hennessy.
Thank you. This was an interesting program to hear, you know, about all of your community collaborations, the events, the outreach that you're doing. At one point, you did mention the Veterans Millage. What is it you would like to do? Sort of brought out a little bit in your talking with Commissioner LeGrand, but what is it you would really like to do to expand your outreach, your services to veterans?
Well, I think, you know, we're sort of at the end of our millage money right now, so for 2022, we're going to continue with with the initiatives that we have going, but just on a much smaller scale. I think it'll be enough to maintain the presence in the community and to keep the momentum going. But then for the following years, we'd probably put more money into those things, back into those things, and we would also, in terms of additional programming, I think we would just continue doing what we're doing and maybe, have the opportunity to expand it by adding, for example, to the substance use and mental health group that we do at Arbor Circle. I would really love to have there be a family program that's part of that. So we already have the substance use and mental health opportunity there for the veterans, but I would like for their families, or even family members of veterans who are not involved in that program, but have there be programming for them and for the kids as well. And I would like to be able to provide random breathalyzers and urine drug screens as a part of that program, which we can't do right now because we can't afford it. It's really costly. So that's one example. It's just like some of the things that we have existing, I can see ways that we could expand it and layer on, which would, broaden the reach and the footprints. Because we know that if we take care of the families, that also has a ripple effect.
To ask another question, I happened to be at your office in November one time, and
I'm sorry.
that's okay. The doors though were locked, and so when I got in though, I want to tell you that your receptionist, your person who greeted the people, was very warm, very helpful, and it was very pleasant. But as we continue to experience COVID going forward, how do you expect your office to operate? Will the doors be open, closed? I mean, is it still going to be knocked before you get in?
Well,
How are you going to do
we
that?
implemented that as part of a safety program a couple of years ago because we needed to have a good safety plan in place. And so that was part of it, is that people need to buzz and say who they are and who they're here to see.
Okay.
And so then we buzz them in. And and actually, when we did the building renovation, we made sure we put an awning over the door so that if it's raining or something, they're not just standing there in the rain. But yeah, so the person at the front desk buzzes them in. As far as how would we do business going forward, we're just gonna do whatever we need to do to adapt to the greater environment. It's just like what we're doing right now. Most of the people are working remotely right now, but we're doing everything that we would be doing if we were in the office, except for the face-to-face contact. And so, and even that, if somebody just says that's the only way they want to do it, then the staff will schedule a special appointment and they'll go meet them in the office, and there's nobody, there's like one other staff person there or something, but, so we're still doing that if that's what they really need and want. But, for the most part, it's, we're doing it remotely. And, in all the iterations, we did it remotely for a while, we came back, then it was hybrid, then we went out again, then it was hybrid, then we went out again. So, I would imagine ultimately, in the long run, when this, when everything gets better in the world, then we'd probably still be doing it hybrid, and we would actually do more outreach that included the staff, like the VSOs and stuff, going to the vet center to help people get connected to their benefits, or going to GRCC, or going to GBSU, or doing more of that kind of thing. So that's kind of what I envision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Skaggs.
Thank you, Chair. Just quickly, Martha, I wonder if you could comment on the relationship between Veteran Services and the Kent County Veterans Treatment Court, and how you make your referrals over there. I know from reports that we've gotten in the past that they're at capacity and unable to service every veteran. So if you could just go a little bit into the relationship between.
Well,
these
we
two services.
support them with a grant financially, and I'm actually part of their treatment team, and so I participate in some of the vetting of treatment court participants. We don't usually refer people there, they're referred by the courts, so it's kind of a diversion program. So if it's identified when they're in court, they're a veteran, and they have to meet certain criteria. It needs to be a nonviolent crime, it needs to be XYZ, there has to be a nexus between their mental health or substance use disorder and service And so, the court, they either have the assessment done outside and get referred to them as part of the court proceeding, or Tony Torres does some of the evaluations. He's a master's level social worker. And so then they write up a report and they, run it back past everybody and they decide, yes, we'll take this one, or no, we won't, essentially. And it's based on certain risk factors that are identified or not, the absence of those, and also the veteran's interest and willingness to participate. So that's how they get vetted into the program. We wouldn't necessarily be sending them from us. I mean, I suppose it could happen, but usually if they're already involved in the courts, they're kind of on their way. So, but if they came to us and they had something like that going on and they weren't yet, it hadn't been adjudicated, it hadn't been, dealt with in the courts, then we could say to them, well, there is this program, so when you go to court, ask about that. And then also we would let them know about our Arbor Circle program, because we would recommend that people start doing their treatment before they get ordered to do it, just because it's going to be better for them and their families and the community in the long run.
Chair, just if I may, real quickly.
All right, you got one more.
The grant that you mentioned, is that from millage funding or is that from other funding?
That's millage funding.
Okay, thanks.
All right, well, thank you all. Thank you, Martha, for your presentation. Thank you for all the services you provide to this county and our veterans, and pass that gratitude on to the rest of your staff, if you would.
We'll do that. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to our next item on the agenda, which is a performance presentation from Susan Cervantes at Kent County Community Action. Good morning, Susan.
Morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Let me see if I can.
If you make sure that mic is directly in front of you, we know we've got you covered.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is it better now?
It's perfect.
Okay. I do feel like I'm in front of the board a lot, so that you do know me a lot, so I'm glad about that. I do want you to know that, as Martha said, I'm very proud of the work that we do and very proud of the staff that we have that do it. And so I'm going to quickly go through this performance measurement with you, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Again, we are going to show you the alignment with all of the county goals, strategic priorities, and those types of things. Being a community action is really part of a strategy. We're governed by the Community Services Block Grant, and through the Community Services Block Grant, we have what's called Results-Oriented Management Accountability, or ROMA. And so we've been doing ROMA since 1998, and so we are a very results-oriented department through the county. And we do align with the performances of the county and what is requested. This year, amazingly, we went through a strategic planning process. We're required to do it once every 5 years. And of course, it fell through COVID. So it was a little hard to do, but we did it. And we came up with a new mission. Our mission is that we strive to assist Kent County individuals, families, and communities to achieve lasting economic security and move out of poverty. And then we came up with 3 taglines: developing community, expanding opportunity, and improving lives. And as Commissioner Steck knows, our mission took us about 6 months to perfect because of verbiage and that type of thing. But we're very proud of the work we did through the strategic plan. It was not easy doing it during COVID, but what we did learn, and what was a valuable gift of COVID, was that we can respond to pandemics, disasters, and emergencies through the community action. And so in our strategic plan, we did set up those parameters where if we had done this maybe in 2017, we probably wouldn't have added the emergency response that we are available to give. And I just wanted to show you the composition of our programmatic issues that we deal with. We deal with senior services, food distribution services, community development services, emergency services, and housing services. And we have about 33 staff that we use to help us deliver all of these programs to the community. And then part of having the circles connect and everything is that we want you to know that all of our services braid their resources, and we wrap around all of our services to our households. It may be that a household comes in for utility assistance, but we really find out that they need some weatherization and some food. And so we offer them all of our services that we provide. And then we do align with the county's values. Our first goal is to provide services efficiently, respecting the guidance of the Community Action Promise, Code of Ethics, strategies and code values of Kent County, and then the agency mission. Our second goal is to ensure braiding of resources to provide innovative solutions while seeking systematic anti-poverty solutions. Our third goal is to allocate funds responsibly and fiscally prudent in order to be the best stewards of the funding resources to cover all of our expenses. Our fourth goal is to offer cross-training opportunities for staff to enhance their skills, knowledge, and service provision to our clients. And then our fifth goal is to ensure that KCCA has the human resources needed to accomplish its mission. Our key performance metrics this year under the excellence in service was to provide Kent County residents with access to our essential services through the community. And this year we had projected that we would have a little bit lower than what we did. We overshot our goal, but I think it's due to the COVID funding that we had. In late 2020, we had over $7 million of COVID, and there was about $4 million of it that had to get out by February 15th. And so we really hit the ground running and tried to get the money to the families that needed it. So we did meet and exceed our goal for that one. And our other one is that we receive a customer service satisfaction rating of 92% or higher. And this year we had to pivot because, as Martha did, we did not have in-person customer satisfaction surveys being brought in. We were open to the public the whole time, and they could fill out the paper survey, but what we did is we went back on all of the applications and we had staff perform a telephone survey so that we could get our statistics, and then we'll put it into our metrics. So that's something new. We learned a lot, and it was very personal for us to do that, and the clients really enjoyed the telephone call to follow up on their services. So we had a 98% rating, which I believe is really cool, and I'm really proud of. And so we are going to do a hybrid once we can, depending on COVID, where we bought tablets so that people could input their customer satisfaction right at the desk, and then we'll have the telephone calls also. So we're looking at that as a win and an innovative solution to COVID. Probably the highlight of the year, besides getting our strategic planning done, is that we are partners in the SARA program. And I just want to say that I could not have done it without Al and his team, without Amy and her team, and Kale and his team, and IT and their team, because within 6 weeks, we took an empty space in 82 Ionia. We had 22 cubicles set up. We had all the IT cords and everything drops. I don't know what they all are because I'm not really technical. But we had everything ready to go, and we hit the ground running. We had, at the first week, we had like 14 staff hired. We had all the telephones wired. We had, we had a letter of agreement with the union because we brought one of our people over into a position, a temporary position, so that she could be the project supervisor of the program. And we did this within like 6 weeks. And it was a lot of work, but it was so great to know that I could count on other departments in the county to help me out. And there wasn't a hesitation, and that was the best part about it. And so this chart is from Friday. I can go to the portal and unload. So far as a group, and we're partners with the United Way, they're the fiduciary, the Salvation Army, the Source, and the Hispanic Center. We've assisted with about $27 million of the $38 million that Kent County was awarded. And so we will continue until the money runs out. We did get extensions on our agreements with the union, and so we'll probably be going through March with the money. So really excited about that. Have really gotten some great staff that applied, and hopefully when they're done with their temporary positions, that they will be hired into the county, because we got some really great people over there, and they're a great group. They're just a really great group. They help each other, and not that everybody's group isn't great, but they've really become close. Last week we lost a member due to COVID, and so we're struggling over there this week, but the closeness has really helped that we are able to grieve the member and to be able to, rely on each other. So some of the significant accomplishments that we've done have been that we have provided over 11,000 nutritious meals. And this year we could not open our congregate meal site. Well, we did for 2 days, and then we had to shut it down. So we don't even know if that counts, but we decorated, it looked really neat, and everybody was so happy to be there. But then Kent County went to high, and then they said we should probably close. And so the nutritious meals that you see here and that you see in your Invisio report are not congregate. We just put them under one component, that home delivered meals, because all of the congregate meal participants were offered home delivered meals. Not everyone took it, because a lot of the seniors that come to the congregate site come for the socialization and the dominoes and crochet and you name it, and loteria. So yes, we're a little bit down on our meals, but we provided the meals. Whoever signed up was eligible for the meals. And then we did have an increase in the home delivered meals because people were staying in their dwellings so that they would not spread the COVID. 205 seniors received our outreach and assistance services, and that's just in alignment with what we do normally. We provided over 10,000 trips with our vehicles. Now that's down probably half, because we could only seat 2 people in the buses at one time, where we usually had 4 to 6 people in the buses, because we have 8-passenger, 12-passenger buses, some with wheelchairs, and that type of thing. And we were only allowed, for half of the year, we only had 1 person as a rider. And then for the other half of the year, I believe starting in July, we could do 2 riders per trip. So that's where our trips are down. But the ones we provided were very valuable for the medical and dental appointments. With the COVID money and with what we had in the CARES Act, the County CARES Act funding, we did provide provided 1,446 payments for utilities. That's probably 3 times what we do in a year. So we really got that money out and spent, and we're really proud of that. We provided 602 households with homeless prevention. That's probably 3 times what we used to do, and that's with the COVID funding that we had, the CARES Act. We also did foreclosure prevention with mortgage arrearages and/or property taxes, and we're continuing to provide that program within KCCA because the homeless prevention and the utility arrearages are being provided by Sarah, so there's not as much of a need. And then we did weatherize 73 homes. And that's lower than what we could do, but we were not allowed to go into homes for 4 months. And then we were not allowed to go into vulnerable populations homes for 7 months. So our seniors, if anyone was disabled. So our production was lower on weatherization, but that was to be expected because of COVID. We did prepare taxes. We did it in a different way. We had appointments this year, and we didn't have any mega days. We didn't have any walk-ins, so everyone had to have an appointment. So our taxes preparation, we usually do about 1,300. We only did about 929, but they did realize 1.9 million in credits, and that's not even refunds. That's only credits. And that's what that program is set up to do, is the credits. We did refer people to over 20,000 times. They like Martha's program. If we don't provide the need directly, then we make the referral and ensure that the customers are at the right place at the right time. And then we did assist 213 veterans. So I wanted to connect with Martha's program too. And then when we look ahead, we're going to implement our 2001 strategic plan. We haven't done any implementation yet, just because we've been, like Martha, we've had a lot of COVID hit our staff. We've had staffing issues. And we're trying to get over that and then implement our plan. And then we're going to continue to respond to the populations with about $30 million in funding. And I just want to thank everyone for having me today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Susan, for your report. Let's see if there are any questions or comments from commissioners. Yes, Commissioner Hennessy.
Always nice to hear these reports. When we see you, which we do frequently, it's often on a, this program or that program
Right.
type of basis, and so it's very nice to be able to receive a more comprehensive view of things. When you were talking about the goals, the 5 goals, I don't recall at this point that you mentioned the speed of responses, and I have to say that oftentimes when I hear things from the public, it is the efficiency of the office. Or in your SARA program, you had 10,000 applications received, and you still have 3,417 in progress. That's about 1/3. So can you just talk to me and just explain a little bit in general about how you receive the processes and how you receive them, and you have mentioned efficiencies, but how do you do all this?
Well, right now, we do have a staffing issue. you know, because we don't have the capacity right now. We have some vacancies, and plus we've had 6 people out on COVID. But it depends on the program, and it depends on the cooperation of the applicant. For weatherization, for instance, we're caught up on the wait list to pre-screen the applicants, but then if they take their time getting us the documentation and everything, it could take 90 days before we have a complete application. And so what we do is, you know, we give them 3 calls and try to get the paperwork, those types of things. So our efficiencies to us, we are being efficient. We're being very prudent with our eligibility, because all of our programs require eligibility, and that requires a lot of documentation. And we try to help our customers obtain the documentation that they need. We make Social Security appointments. We make appointments to get their VA information. You know, we've helped, right now, we're helping them find their vaccine cards for some of our programs, you know, because they've lost their vaccine cards. So it just depends on, you know, what the public sees as our efficiency is skewed in that we know that we're being very efficient, very prudent, and you know, we know that we're not going to have any disallowed costs. It's just not in our nature to have disallowed costs. Would we like to be more proficient? Yes. Would we need more staff to do that? Absolutely. But what we're trying to do with each component of each program is to ensure that we have the quality and the quantity of documentation that we need to pass the audits. You know, the SARA program received 4,000 paper applications before MSHDA even had established the portal. So what we had to do before we could even assist anyone is to enter 4,000 applications into the portal. And now what's happening with those applications is that they're recertifications. So people that already received assistance maybe in June or July can reapply for 3 more months of assistance, and they have. And that's why our numbers, you know, at one time we only had about 1,900 more to process, and then the research came in, and now we have 3,000 more to process. We can't seem to catch up, and we probably, unfortunately, may run out of the SARA 1 funds before we get to all the applications. And so what we're trying to do is a first come, first serve assistance for all of our programs. It's always first come, first serve, but we're trying to get to those people who are most in need. And for the SARA program, that's those that have court cases, because the judges are working with us. If they have a SARA number, we give the SARA number out, and the judge will, and Commissioner Steck, you might be able to tell me better, but they stay the case for 45 days?
Yeah.
Something like that. And so, you know, we're really trying to prioritize the needs. We understand that people have needs. You know, our utility assistance people are doing 5 applications a day, and I have 6 people doing those, or emergency services, I'm sorry. So when it's perceived that we're not as quick as some people would like, it's that we're trying our best with what we have and what we're required to have. Does that make sense?
Thank you. I mean, I understand that, you know, it's very difficult with the number of applications, the requirements of each program and getting them. I certainly do hope that we can make progress on, you know, while the funds remain available for all those applications that are outstanding. I do want to mention that you've been a good partner on senior millage and the use of the money, and you highlighted that your meals that are
Right.
are really very nice. You know, the weatherization, you've been a good partner in that, even though you're a little below what, you know, our expectation, you know, with the original expectations or numbers were, but that's a little bit of a COVID effect. And I also want to mention that with the work you're doing with housing, I did take the opportunity to go through the homes that you constructed in Cedar Springs.
I'm
which
so
adds
glad
to
you
the-
made it up there.
Which adds to the, you know, it's 3 homes, but it is a little bit of an affordable housing option that was made available in Cedar Springs, and it was a very nice project.
Right, and those 3 are part of 10 that have been done this year. And so we really are using our home and CDBG dollars much more efficiently than in the past in getting that money out with developers. And really, those homes are quite nice, as are the townhomes. And I think 5 out of 6 townhomes are bought, so that's pretty neat too.
All right, thank you. Any other commissioners with comments or questions? Yes, Commissioner Collin.
Thank you, Chair Stack. The rides with the policy to limit to 2 people in the bus, is that, so the 10,000 instead of 20,000 rides, just roughly, are there 10,000 rides that we could have given and would have given without that COVID limitation? Or is demand for the rides drastically reduced as well, just given the COVID spread?
Well, with the congregate meal sites being closed, and that's ourselves and UCOM and other sites, those rides went down. But the rides for medical and dental appointments still were at the high level. And so when we could probably figure that maybe we could have gotten 15,000 with more rides, but with our RideLink partners, we tried to pick up the pace of the rides, and we did receive a new software. It's called Econolane, and so it's more efficient in assigning rides. And so it goes by GPS and where everybody is. So once we have the ability to put more people on a bus, we'll have more rides. Mm-hmm. It's that 6-foot rule.
Good. Anyone else? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Commissioner Grant.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask about the foreclosure prevention. You said you served 9 families, and I'm wondering, were there more who applied? Was that all who applied? If there were more than that applied, what prevented us from serving more?
I think that was all that applied right now. The qualifications for the foreclosure prevention are at 200% of poverty, and a lot of homeowners don't fall within the 200% of poverty. And if they did, it was because of COVID. They lost their job or something like that. And so we're going to work with legal aid and then with the treasurers, they're sending people over for the property taxes. And so we're working with those 2 entities to accept more applications on behalf of, they're not sure what their income is. And so we'll do the screening and see if we can help them.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, if not, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
presentation. Thank you for all the work you've done. We know you've put you and your agency through an awful lot to the post-COVID world, so appreciate everything.
Thank you.
All right, let's move to our next item, which is item number 5, and I'll ask Al to present that, and then we'll take your motion. Oh, you won't know.
No, I don't have. Okay. Yes, action requested, recommend to the Board of Commissioners various appointments to boards, commissions, and committees for 2022. The Board of Commissioners on an annual basis appoints county residents and commissioners to boards, commissions, and committees in accordance with applicable statutes or standing rules. Interest in serving on the various boards, commissions, and committees was solicited via www.accesskent.com. Over 150 applications were received for 42 vacancies. 3 interview teams. Team 1 was Commissioners Steck, Burl, and Skaggs. Team 2, Commissioners Coleman, Hennessy, and Thiel. And Team 3, Commissioners Ponstein, LeGrand, and McLeod reviewed all applications and conducted interviews for the various vacancies. The recommended nominees to fill vacancies are noted on the appointed boards, commissions, and committees listing.
Yes, Commissioner Skaggs.
Thank you, Chair. So I'd like to request a division of the question and of this item and to remove the Gerald R. Ford International Airport Board recommendations for separate discussion and vote.
My parliamentarian has advised me I still jumped the gun on that. I need a motion on the underlying motion. Does anyone make a motion as submitted?
So moved.
Support? Now, I will take your motion. You don't need to repeat it. I'll accept it as having just been submitted. I do note, though, that I think that the division of the question, Rule 3.15, requires a motion, not a request. So I'll take that as a motion.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there support for the motion?
Support.
Okay, it is supported. Debate? Any discussion? Yes.
I think our,
Commissioner Skaggs.
thank you, Chair. I think the request here is simply there is, some questions that are solely about this particular board appointment. And by dividing the question, it would allow us to make sure that every commissioner has the opportunity to vote through all of the other recommendations that were made unanimously.
Anyone else? If not, I'll just, I shared this with Commissioner Skaggs as well, that I'm looked at this. I'm disinclined to support that motion because I think that the objections, the concerns of various members, if they have any, to any of the multiple appointments can be articulated on the record. We can preserve those objections or concerns and still proceed. I suspect that most of us have been around a while know that when you submit 30, 40 applications, some of them we have lots of warm fuzzies about, and some of them we have concerns about. We've traditionally taken these up on an up or down vote, maybe not too dissimilar to what we do with our budget, where we also have warm fuzzy feelings about some of the line items and really don't like others, but we do it as a whole. So that is my perspective, but of course it'll be the will of the committee. Any other comments? If not, the current motion is a motion to divide the question to address, let me get it clear, to address what?
The Gerald R. Ford Airport Board.
The Gerald R. Ford Airport Board, which consists of two proposed nominations or appointments. Those that support that motion say yes.
Yes?
Those that oppose it say no. No. Okay. For clarification, I'm going to ask for a raise of hands. Those that support it, raise your hand. Those that oppose it, raise your hand. Okay. It is not, the motion was not passed. So we're on to the regular motion, underlying motion not divided. Any comments there? Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you, Chair Steck. I just want to point out, and this might be something that we need to look out for. I see the Lakeshore Regional Entity Substance Abuse Oversight Policy Board has a member that's being reaffirmed for her seat on that board. I just want to make the board aware that I'm aware that there's going to be two resignations coming forward. I don't know if they've been received at the county yet or not, but both of those are Kent County members on the board that are going to be stepping off, and we fought that we wanted this extra participation, and it seems like we have difficulty making sure that the full five are always full. So I just wanted to point that out. I don't know if we need to repost that or if we can use the applications that were received this time, so just throwing that out.
I'll make a point of response at this point. We are aware that there are two at this point. We only had one qualified candidate that had submitted. That's why there's only one submitted
I
now.
know,
So
I
we'll have to go
understand
back out, as we will with some of these others, to seek further applications for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Commissioner Teal.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to disclose on the record that Dan Korndike, one of the appointees to the Gerald R. Ford International Airport Board, is my father. He's served on this board already for 5 years, so this is not a new appointment. This is a reappointment. I've talked with both you, the Chair, and legal counsel, and told that there is not a conflict of interest because there is no financial gain for my father or myself, and told that I am obliged to vote on this slate of appointees.
Yeah, thank you for making the disclosure. I will confirm that you did raise that issue with me outside. It is my conclusion that under Rule 3.3, you are obligated, as any one of us is obligated, to cast a vote on all matters that come before us, unless there is a conflict under Rule 1.9 or under our conflict policy. And after reviewing that, it's clear to me you have no economic interest in the outcome of any of these appointments, including that one. And under our policy, neither you nor your spouse nor your family member whom you control has any economic benefit. So my conclusion is you're obligated to vote. I see. Commissioner Skaggs.
I'd like to motion.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Hennessy was first. Commissioner.
At its core, since we're allowed to talk about the appointments as it's being given here, this appointment to the Aeronautics Board, the seat that's for a commissioner, this is being a reappointment from a former commissioner, not a current one. And the terms of our agreement for the Aeronautics Authority allow up to 3 commissioners. And in our discussions, Chair Steck, you said the wording could mean that there would be 2, as would be in effect if this is passed, or we could go to 1 or even no commissioners. And that is not what this board intended in 2015, 2016. So I'm concerned about what direction we're heading and where we go from here. As the authority proposal was discussed in a work session on October 22nd, 2015, Commissioner Ponstein asked if the authority could purchase or dispose of property even if the county said no. And he was told yes, it could. So my question then was a follow-up to his, and it was about the role of the county board going forward. And the response given by our regrettably late legal counsel, Tom Dempsey, who was very wise, he said, this board's authority will be to appoint members, remove members, and enforce the terms of the lease. That's it. The appointment of county commissioners to the Airport Authority governance is significant. It was talked about. We have experienced the Road Commission during my tenure here. We've had the Road Commission expand from 3 to 5 members to have greater accountability on that board. The little triangle of 3 wasn't working for us as well, so it became 5, and we could pay attention to what areas of the county were being represented. The Convention Arena Authority, we have been revisiting that and making adjustments because the authorities, all we have is the appointment process. So the other issues are a sidebar to that or a subsidiary to that, but they're also important. Because it remains, that there be 3 commissioners, and then, of course, we would like to see one of them be a Democrat. And then I have always sought this appointment year after year, but that is subsidiary to the main question, which is that there be 3 commissioners on this. And it's certainly not a matter that we're all going to be happy on this. Or, it's a matter that there be 3 commissioners because that is our authority as regards to this authority.
Commissioner Skaggs.
Thank you, Chair. So I'd like to make a motion to amend the recommendation for the Gerald R. Ford International Airport Board to remove Dan Korndike as the county representative and to insert Commissioner Carol Hennessy in that place.
Motion to amend the existing motion to approve the slate of candidates has been made. Is it supported? Support. It is supported. Discussion? Yes, Commissioner Skaggs.
Thank you, Chair. We just want to echo Commissioner Hennessy's comments. I think that what's really important here, especially as the county has increasingly in the past spun off some of its authority to authorities, is to continue to have and live up to the principle of small d democratic accountability. I think it's vital because of the comments of Commissioner Hennessy. This is publicly owned, publicly managed entity. The county has some liability for these issues. And I think it's vital that we have the full amount available of elected county commissioners on the board so that our interests are heard on that board. I think we saw some problems in the past year on the CAA board with making sure that our appointees were in good communication with us and were looking out for the interests of the commission. I think having elected representatives is vital to making sure that there is accountability to the public as well. You know, in addition, we've seen issues in the airport currently over PFAS contamination, and in the past over the glycol de-icing, which saw, you know, a serious amount of public engagement on the issue. And so I think that it's important that we have that direct accountability to the voters. This is nothing against Dan Korndike, former Commissioner Korndike, who I believe has, you know, served us very well. This is simply about the principle of having elected representatives, the full cohort of elected representatives on that board for accountability reasons. Thank you, Chair.
Commissioner LeGrand.
Thank you. Obviously, this is my first year serving on this group, but the CAA, the reactions have ranged from grumpiness to frustration to outrage over various aspects of what we know or don't know what's going on with that group. And that is what is in my mind when I say that I agree that while Mr. Korndike comes with an experience on the county and understanding how the county works, and obviously he served on this board for a while, I do feel like in the principle, we want commissioners who are not only actively accountable to voters, but actively related to this board and to the current county administration. It just makes sense to me that we should have elected officials serving on this board. It's a really important board for the economic development of this area, and we need more ties, not fewer, to the Board of Commissioners. Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Chair Stack. I would just like to comment, having worked through this whole process with Commissioners Hennessy and Teal, that in my opinion, team number 2 is actually number 1. I think the argument about ensuring, you know, elected representation on this and, you know, all of these boards and committees is a good one. I do think that given the current circumstances of the COVID pandemic and the already known impact and existing uncertainty in the airline industry, that it does behoove us to, given those circumstances, to stick with, you know, 2 longtime members, the current chair of the airport board and the you know, a longtime, you know, economic development interest. So given those current circumstances, I think the amendment is not a positive one.
Any other comments, questions? Yes, Commissioner McLeod.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to also just comment on the need to ensure that as many commissioners as can be on this board are on the board as well. And I support the amended motion to adjust the recommendations based on what Commissioner Skaggs has already noted, because I also believe that if we can have up to 3 commissioners on the board, current commissioners, as that are accountable to voters, as Commissioner LeGrand said that we should do so. And I think that, you know, although Mr. Korndike has served for a long period of time, that from what I understand, based on what Commissioner Hennessy has said, is supposed to be a commissioner seat. And I think that we should, if we have the opportunity to correct that we should. Thank you.
Any other Commissioner Ponce?
Thank you, Chair Steck. So just one clarification, quick, and I know I advocated for this when this was doing, is that we're not allowed 3, we're allowed up to 3, and that's at our discretion. And one of the big things when we spun this off to an authority was to try to make the airport more nimble, add different voices, different expertise onto that board. And we even have people serving that don't even live in Kent County. And I think that benefits us as we move to a regional airport, not just the Kent County Airport. You know, it's funny that we had an opening I think a year ago, and the partisan part of it didn't come up. And lo and behold, we're in an election year, and now the partisan card is being played. When I look at all these boards, I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, I just want the best people serving. Dan Korndike brings a lot of experience to that board. There's a lot of challenges that are going to be faced in the next couple years, and even current challenges. I think instead of arguing over Democrats, Republican, trying to get the partisan divide going again, that maybe we should look at on how we appoint committees and what we do to ensure that the very best are serving us on that board, not only us, but the whole county. And then just at the end, and this is for Linda, so when these people are sitting at our discretion, I'm assuming we could also remove them at any time too, correct?
Actually, Commissioner, there is some difference between various committees. If there's a committee where we're appointing, but that committee is set up under statute, the statute itself may have some limitations on removal. So I can't give you a blanket answer on that, I'm afraid. If you want me to check on any particular committee, be happy to do that for you and get back to you on that.
How about the one that we're talking about?
Be happy to pull the lease and make sure that I've got all the language. I'll check and see exactly what my predecessor opined at that time, and then I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments before we get to a seconds? Anyone else? All right. Second time? Go
Just a
ahead,
quick
Commissioner.
comment, it's December 14th, 2021, so we're not actually in an election year. But I do want to comment on the accusation of inserting partisanship into this, because I think that is categorically false. That when Democrats want to have fair representation based on the elected results from the last election, that is somehow partisan. But when Republicans want to have all 3 seats, that is somehow nonpartisan. It's a curious and odd definition of partisanship. Thank you, Chair.
All right, well, Chair, I get to make some comments. That almost sounded partisan, Commissioner, but this question to me is not a partisan question. This is a question, what's in the best interest of our airport authority? I mean, that's our primary function, and that's our responsibility as commissioners when we look at these. There's no question that, because I was there at the time of the debates, when we set up the airport authority, we were interested in maintaining a presence of elected officials on that board. At the same time, really the purpose for setting this up included primarily to assure that we had significant representation on that board that had competencies, capacities, insights, and relationships that commissioners didn't have. So one of the essential purposes was we wanted to diversify that board. And so at the end of the day, the conclusion was we would have the ability to put up to 3 commissioners. So is 3 necessary to have the adequate elected official oversight, or is 2? That's a judgment call. And my judgment, 2 is sufficient to provide that kind of elected official input with respect to how that board functions, and at the same time gives us the ability on a 7-member board to have 5 members from the community that bring those skills, those competencies, and those relationships that we wanted to accomplish. I'd note here as well that this particular board has already had 3 new members put on that board in the last year, year and a half. And so stability is a key objective when we look at trying to appoint these boards. To put another one in to make it 4, a majority of the board being less than 2 years of experience on a board of that significance, I think would be inappropriate. So it's not a question of whether or not the alternatives being considered are competent, capable, and could potentially serve the task. It is a question of a judgment call on what is the judgment most likely to accomplish the stability and the various objectives that we have for our airport. No question, we also have some significant issues that the airport is taking on, some significant projects. And that board has itself indicated that it would prefer to maintain the stability that it currently has. All those suggest to me that while there are other legitimate options, including the potentials raised in this amendment, on balance, I would conclude that it's best served, that the airport is best served, the commission is best served by the reappointment of both of the incumbents, Birgit Close and Dan Korndijk. Those are my comments. All right, with that, unless there's anything else, I will call the question. And there is something else, Commissioner LeGrand.
I wonder if you could just explain the difference between member 1 and county representative 3. So we are choosing 2 people, but only 1 is a county representative and 1 is a member. Is this correct? And is there any difference in what we consider to be prerequisites or requirements of those 2 people?
I'm not frankly aware that there is a requirement or a criteria difference for those 2. Are you aware of any difference?
I am not aware of the reason why there are 2 different titles there.
I think on one of the members, it's from outside Kent County.
But that's not one of those outside.
Right, I
yeah.
understand that, but that's why they're assigned different things.
So member 1 might have attachments that we don't see on this page.
Well, what I think it is, there's a member 1, 2, and 3, there's the member from outside the county, and then there's 3 that can or be appointed by the county commission, make up the other 3.
That's probably the reason, because it is so that at one point we had 3 county commissioners. We converted one of those to a non-county commissioner, and that may be the county rep designation.
Thank you.
All right. That, I'll call the question. on
Request a
the
roll call
motion
vote.
to- Okay. So the motion at this point is to amend, has been supported. The motion is to amend the underlying motion to approve the slate, and it is to change the appointment of Mr. Korndijk, remove Mr. Korndijk from the appointment,
Correct.
Okay.
And to add Carol Hennessy.
and to add Carol Hennessy. Those that support that motion to amend, say yes. Oh, I'm sorry, you did request it. Can you do the roll call? No?
Yes?
No.
Yes.
Yes?
No?
Yes.
No.
No.
I believe the vote was 5-4 against the motion to amend, so the motion to amend fails. We move back to the underlying motion to approve the slate as submitted now. Any further discussion? Yes?
This is the
Commissioner.
entire slate now?
It is the entire slate, the amendments having failed. Yes.
Thank you.
No roll call requested, so those that support the motion say yes.
Yes.
Those that oppose the motion say no. It is approved. All right, let's move to the next item, which is miscellaneous. Are there any miscellaneous items? Commissioner Ponstein.
Thank you, Chair Stack. So I just wanted a quick update. I know in Lansing, there's a bill moving through right now with the personal property tax. They are now moving that threshold up to 200,000. I don't think any county commission, well, I'll just speak for myself, giving businesses a tax break, I mean, I'm all for it. That personal property tax has been a headache since it was instituted in the first place. The problem I have with the bill is that there's no mention in the bill how counties will be reimbursed for those lost revenues. And this train is moving fast out of the station, and we know the record of Lansing when it comes to funding counties and their obligations to us often fail. So that's moving out quick. There is a link on the MAC website where you can send a letter to your representatives with just a click. The other thing, too, is over the past week, we pushed through the 4-year terms, what I thought was probably one of the most bipartisan bills that were presented to the legislature this year. We had a Republican and a Democrat that brought the bill forward. And it was, remarkable, the people that I talked to, how they could come to agreement on this, but yet at the day of the vote, and a lot of you got calls to call your reps, is that there were still people who claimed to be, bipartisan, were doing everything to keep the divide in Lansing going between Republicans and Democrats. And it's really, looking at it firsthand, it's really sad that there's absolutely no trust, and a lot of this is being fueled by people that just want to keep it that way. And I saw it firsthand, and it's really discouraging and disappointing that we see our legislators and their staff members acting in that way. So that's all I've got. I wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, and if you don't celebrate the Christmas season, I hope the joys of that season reach you and your family anyway. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner LeGrand.
Thank you, Chair. On the subject of the committee appointments, I want to really thank Lisa Ampolsky for her fantastic help helping us with interviews and getting the organization going. And it was tough with new staff to make it happen, and it was great. I also want to say it was a great experience to meet members of the public interested in serving in this way, and that was really, to me, inspiring and a very positive experience, and I really appreciated doing that. These lists here, these names represent a lot of most often really unglamorous work, but if we're owning what we do for the county, we really need to own it in every aspect of it, and that is these committees and boards that keep track of keeping our community going in a lot of different ways. So it sounds like I'm patting us on the back, but I really feel like this is important work, and I appreciated being part of it. Thank you.
Pat away, it's deserved. All right, anything else? Al, you had a comment or an issue you want to raise.
I have Cora McDonald here from one of my GVSU students. So I have students, they can attend a meeting and then also do a job shadow. Job shadow is extra credit, so.
Welcome. All right, if nothing else, my parting comments, this is the last meeting of the LHR for this year. I think it's the last meeting of any board committee or commission for this year, so thank you for allowing me to serve you as the chair over the course of the last year. If things progress, I may not be chairing this next year. We'll pass that on, but it's been my pleasure to serve and to work with all of you over the course of this year. So another pat on the back. Yeah, thank you. We are adjourned.